Our next delegation is John Richardson, Catherine Thompson, and John Dowler at Public Forums.
Hi. Hello. Were you able to get the adapter?
I'll be there.
Okay.
Should I try and put the technology first?
Oh, sure. Okay, we'll just have a small pause.
Is that okay? Sorry.
Yeah. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Entertainers. Yeah, I always have a song in my car. Could I just start talking? Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought I was, okay, good. My name's Catherine Thompson, and I'm with John Richardson and a group called, and John Dowler, quietly in the background. And we're with a group called Public Forums. And Public Forums is one sort of activity of FLO, which was previously known as the influence algorithm, previously awkwardly known as the influence algorithm. So now we're calling it FLO. And I'm very, very excited by what this program and in-person and online process could offer a community of people like Bowen Island. And I want to really thank so many of you that have taken the time to listen to us, and some people from the public came out and listened to how this process works. And so what I'd like to do is just give you a chance to review it a little bit. Oh, I'm having a deja vu. Wow.
Is that a good thing?
I don't know. It's just hit me. So just to, so we're going to walk through one potential issue that maybe could benefit from having community engagement and involvement, and perhaps at the end of it, really the intention of FLO is to help weave many community voices, many values, and a diversity of thought together to find a kind of a valid metrical expression of what the community's overall will and intention is. And we're getting feedback through the grapevine that the budget is kind of like maybe not going to fly, and I totally get that. Like, we don't have money to, we as a municipality, and it's just something that I believe in so much, and part of the costs were for me to facilitate some of the meetings, and I would be happy to do that. So if council was willing to give it a try with one small issue, well, it's not a small issue, community center is a big issue, but any small issue that you feel is sort of discreet and manageable, and maybe not Cape Roger Curtis so much, but something that we could just sort of work together on, and you could see how it works, and maybe gain some confidence. And this really does work, because it is an unknown. So it would be a demonstration project on a much smaller scale. I guess the cost would be advertising and maybe rental of the room. So that's kind of where we've gotten to. I just recognize there's been so many public processes on Bowen, and as long as Bowen probably has been here, and so many people have put so much time and so much effort and research and knowledge and heart into developing reports and serving on committees. My husband was on the Civic Task Force for 2 years and came up with a wonderful set of recommendations and reports for civic facilities. And then another group came in, and they also developed a wonderful report and set of recommendations. And well, we know that there's just a lot of heart and knowledge and wisdom that's sitting in your filing cabinets and on your shelves. So what our aspiration would be is to take that information that's been accumulated by the many members of our community, make them accessible in a way that people could really interact with that knowledge, inform themselves of the values that might drive some of their decisions, and at the end of the day, come together and see, well, this, you know, set of options to these various issues under this one, whatever the issue is, it could be the community center, this would be the best expression of what our community intention is. And I just think it's such a cool and innovative technology and process. So John Richardson is the brains and the genius behind it, and he's a great listener. He's been taking in some information that my husband's been sharing about his experience with the community center, and what we thought we'd do is just kind of walk you through what that process could look like. And I really would love to get your questions and input on what we have to say. So I don't want to talk too much, and we want to hear from you.
So Catherine, sorry, I'll just add to what Catherine said. We have entered into a partnership with the Center for Digital Media in Vancouver, and they are providing a 6-person team of master's students who are very excited about the possibility of working on this with Bowen Island community. They are developing this technology for an issue that Bowen Council might see fit to kind of commission or undertake with the kind of financial understanding that Catherine has explained, that 24,000 is too much, but we are very interested in just providing this as a kind of benefit to the community. So, as Catherine said, I spent an amount of time yesterday speaking with Dan Park, her husband, who has done quite a lot of effort working on the community center. And so we kind of envisioned how this process might apply to an issue like the community center, which is actually got a lot of factors on the table. So I'll just take you through it as a mental exercise, and we would certainly leave it open to to decide whether they would do this or whether this is the appropriate issue, but it's a good case study.
Would you be able to pull it back so that those, oh, I see.
So the first stage would begin probably with people. Oh.
I'm just seeing if you can make the words bigger if you pull it back.
Okay, I can try. It's definitely. Is that viewable by people? It's kind of at an odd angle. Okay.
Can you still don't close my eyes?
Okay. Well, the first stage begins with an exploration of the values that are kind of driving people's concern around the community center. So we might have some groups, some meetings, work groups, where we look at what kind of values have informed past plans and what do people think should inform a new plan for the community center. So words such as promoting the arts, sustainability, that it should be a beautiful building, that it should sponsor connections in the community, that it should be affordable. These are all values that have come up as important ones in past kind of consultations or considerations around the community center. And once we kind of pulled out those values, there's a more in-depth process where we put all of the ideas on the table as well. So, for example, one of the areas is to be performing space. And that might be a small hall, or it might be a big hall. There might be tiered seating that's built in. There might be tiered seating that's retractable, all of which have different costs. Would need to be perhaps an admin office or a rehearsal space. These are all options that have floor space requirements with them. There might be common space with multi-use concession. It might have a lobby that everyone can access. A library might be tied in, again, with their own constraints of space and cost, and each one also having operating costs and operating revenue, possibly. The same for recreation space, there's various options. You can't have all these options, but people can can and have thought about what all is possible and put it on the table as part of their wish list. So a lot of this process is about what wish list would actually be feasible and would maximize satisfaction across the community. Other concerns around building is, well, how expensive a building do you want to have? Would it be a LEED Gold building, which would cost about $400 a square foot? Would it be an industrial style building, which could be $200 a square foot? Would it be a mid-level style? And then what are the options for financing it? Would the community be open to tax increases for certain great plans? Would it be open to community bonds? These are also considerations that community members can weigh in balancing the benefits that might come from the community center. So we do this kind of ideation stage. It's like a brainstorming, but with community members that have thought about the issues, so that all of these things can be explored. And then, let me see here. Oops. I'm just going to. I had quite the interesting journey. John, can you help me center this? As I was coming over here, Wolfgang really thought that I should be wearing a suit for a presentation like this. So I actually bought a suit and left it with my power cord and all my things on the bus as I was coming over here. So I'm very happily borrowing the bus computer, but I'm not familiar with apples at all. So, so yeah, if we can pause there, John, that last screen. And this is gonna hold, right?
How does it get centered on this screen?
Okay. I'm gonna zoom in. So,
John, can you make it so it doesn't automatically go forward?
I think I moved it up. I'll give it another try.
Alright.
So on this stage, we have people that might be very interested in working on this project, and they, for example, some people might think that how much the community center sponsors a feeling of social connection is a very important value. So people could go through and evaluate all of the options that are on the table according to how much those options are going to promote social connection in the community. And they can do this evaluation of all of the possibilities for all the different values that are on the table. So it kind of gets this a broad set of factors by which it's analyzed and justified. And as part of this consideration process, all of these more detailed factors can also be incorporated. So if there's a large hall, how many square feet would a large hall be? What grants could be raised to support that specific amenity? What would the operating revenue for a large hall be? What would be the operating costs? And all of these different aspects of a building, of a community center, can be each weighed and incorporated into the larger kind of data set. So all these factors, and it's an enormous number of factors, and very difficult for one person to hold in their mind. But with the community kind of providing all these inputs, they can be used to kind of rank all of the possible plans. So all this data is taken in. And then there's an online stage where people in the community can go to the internet, and we could also have little drop-in opportunities for people that are not so comfortable with computers to come in. And people would choose their values. What values would they like to see driving the selection of the community center? They can choose those, and they can adjust what percentages, how important are these values relative to each other, how important would performing arts be as opposed to affordability, as opposed to aesthetics, and set their proportions. And not just simply do this in the abstract, but also see how that would generate different types of buildings. So with this set of values, I would get a certain type of community center. And the council could specify that each of these proposals, each of these possible outcomes.
Oh, Don was just saying that is it clear to the audience that this is being done as an individual online? So you're by yourself, kind of going
Yes.
through the data.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
thank you, Don.
yeah.
Thanks.
And if anyone's got any questions, it's really valuable for me to be able to address them. So
Yeah,
the
just
first
shut them
stage,
up.
the first stage with the brainstorming session would be done in groups, not so private. People just put the ideas on the table, this discussion kind of gets bounced around. The second stage, what stage we're on here, is an individual. So everyone gets to do their own, setting the values in their own privacy. Yeah. So as people set their values and play with the different priorities, they would see different possible buildings come up with different kind of cost scenarios. And council can specify, well, each building has got to be balanced, or each building has got to be balanced within 10%, because these things are never completely easy to predict. So that the options that people are realistically considered are also incorporated that this is going to pay for itself, or it's going to be balanced anyway. So each person can go through and fine-tune what kind of buildings they would like to see. And there might be hundreds of different possibilities. If you look at all of these different options and all the different combinations and permutations, there might be hundreds or even thousands of possible community centers. So people can rank through this process which type of community center they would like to see. And if they would like to go in and further fine-tune things, they can say, well, performing arts center is extremely important to me, and this is how I would list my priorities. A large hall is this much more important for me than a small hall. And tiered seating that's retractable, which allows multiple uses, is this much more important to me than tiered seating that is permanently in place. So all these factors and variables can be evaluated by each person that wants to participate in the process. And what happens is it evaluates all of these inputs from everyone. So everyone that's in the process has basically ranked every single possible community center that could be built. And then it looks at, well, if we chose, for example, community center number 345, right? It turns out that if we look at a graph here, there would be a lot of people that are not very satisfied, and a lot of people that would be very satisfied. Perhaps it's a building that has a very big theater space, but no recreation space, right? Some people are very happy by that, some people are very unhappy by that. It wouldn't be a community center that would bring a lot of harmony to the community, right? So the process would look for community centers where people are similar in their happiness and where that happiness is high. So it would look for distributions of happiness among all of the plans that look like this, right? Where people are fairly similar in their happiness. And even more importantly, this, for example, would be an ideal community center because lots of people are very close in their happiness. There's similarity in satisfaction, there's harmony, but the satisfaction is also high. So it takes all of these inputs around cost and space and values, and it tries to find outcomes that are going to maximize contentment in the community. And at the end of it, it will generate a result. In fact, it gives a rank for each possible community plan. So there might be 1,000 possible community buildings, like community plan, community center. And for each one, it will say what would be the average satisfaction of the community with that particular proposal, how much inequality or spread happiness would there be, how much dissonance or discontentment would there be. And for each one, it will give a score, a metric. We'll also, based upon how many people participated, we'll be able to say what the error rate of this is, how many participants there were, and the costs and operating revenue, all those financial details for each possible community center. So there are 500 different possible community centers. We will give this analysis for each community center. And this information can be available to council when it looks at all the various plans. And so, this is a very short summary. I think there would be a lot of more detail that would go into it if you went to the consultation process, but you get an idea of how the general approach would work. So, are there any questions about, it's a very brief overview? Yes. Oh.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that, or ask you to comment on, you mentioned there might be thousands of possible outcomes. Does that mean that people have to literally go through thousands of options?
No,
Yeah.
that's right. So basically, by looking at what values people have chosen, and their general preferences around whether it's a big hall or a small hall, it can extrapolate a score for each one of the hundreds of plans. So people don't have to, people can actually go in and spend 5 minutes on the site just by saying their relative values and looking at the very top choice. And based upon their values and what they selected as their number one choice, we will be able to provide a rank to all of the other hundreds of choices that might be on the table. So in that way, it gives people a say in all of the possibilities.